upload your photos and videos, visit upload.theweathernetwork.com.
When severe weather...
Everywhere, the better chance of getting rid of it, and then we could all get back to a normal life.
Burlington Mayor Marianne Mead-Ward says that she had been against the lockdown until recently.
But what changed for me in the last week or so was a conversation with our hospital president and CEO saying that we really have to look at health capacity region-wide.
She says they have to prepare even though Halton has a low number of cases.
But when we see what's happening with regions on fire around us with COVID-19 and we have capacity at our hospital, of course we'll help. We're already helping people from Mississauga, people from Hamilton.
And with news of a more infectious variant in Ontario, there is fear that numbers could go up. Charlene Thom, CTV News.
Ontario added over 4,300 new infections over a two-day period today and 81 new deaths. This marks the 12th day in a row the province has logged more than 2,000 cases. Alberta recorded 2,100 cases over that same two-day period. Let's now bring in CTV News infectious disease specialist Dr. Abdush Shakavi in the conversation. He joins us now from Toronto. Doctor, good to see you again. Thank you for making the time.
Good evening, Akshay.
So the new strain of the coronavirus is here. First two cases reported in Ontario. How are you assessing the situation?
Well, this is not a surprise. I think this was inevitable, and understanding the realities of modern travel, as long as people were traveling outside of the UK and other countries within which this new strain has been identified, there's going to be cases pretty much worldwide. I think that we need to wrap our heads around that reality. I think the horse is out of the barn, and if anything, I think this is a real reminder to everyone that it's critical to maintain protocols when it comes to quarantining after international travel, and it's even more critical that within our own communities, even if you're not traveling, to be that much more cautious when it comes to staying home, limiting your contacts, masking, and really only doing things that are essential, because this is likely going to be something we're identifying much more frequently across Canada and in fact around the world over the next few weeks.
You know, I just want to go back a little bit, Doctor. The UK said that they discovered this virus end of September, but they've only confirmed it mid-December. We're talking about a period of at least 2.5, 3 months in the middle where flights have been coming back and forth between Canada and the UK. Now, these two individuals in particular have no travel history or having any high risk of exposure. My question to you is, doesn't that raise a big concern from where they picked up the virus and now how many others need to be traced?
Well, most certainly. I mean, this tells you that there was a lapse in protocol somewhere along the lines where someone was not doing what they're supposed to be doing, whether that was a traveler who likely didn't quarantine for the mandated 14-day period, or someone else that they were in contact with thereafter who acquired the infection. So this highlights the importance of maintaining our public health measures. I think it's going to draw greater attention to border controls and how we're going to manage people who are traveling, both inbound and outbound. And again, it speaks to the importance of just not taking any chances. This virus is invisible. It's very difficult to see. People are not symptomatic all the time, but it is transmitted. So we've got to be extra careful and extra vigilant about following public health advice, not to invite more danger.
And while we have to be extra more vigilant and careful, like you're saying, Doctor, are current testing methods enough to detect this new variant, especially now with the strain here, or do we have to up our testing and tracing game?
Well, we definitely have to up our testing and tracing game. That goes without saying, even before we identified this new strain. But that being said, there's going to be some struggle ahead before enough people are vaccinated, where I think we're going to need rapid testing, never mind a test that can identify a variant strain, just a test that can identify the circulating strain of COVID-19 that is prevalent across the country. We need to have a way to identify this early and often to prevent people from spreading this when they're going to work and going to school, etc. I think that's really the game changer that we're looking for over the next couple of months.
You know, this is a new strain we're speaking of from the UK, Doctor. What's the possibility of the virus mutating further? We already have some news about another strain in Nigeria, as I was discussing and reading. What's your take? How many such mutations can happen, and can we prevent that with the current vaccine?
Well, it's a good question, and we can't say for certain. All we can say is our experience from mutations with similar coronaviruses, both the original SARS coronavirus and the MERS virus, in addition to the D6G14 mutation, which was talked about widely in the first wave, has shown that our vaccines can still be quite protective, has shown that the antibody response is still quite reasonable. I'm not too terribly alarmed that that will change even with further mutations. But again, it comes down to our best defense, which is do what we're supposed to be doing, avoiding contact. This virus can't transmit itself without us being in close contact with each other. It doesn't matter how many times it mutates. So let's work on what we can control and keep our destiny within our own hands.
And that's why we're looking at a lockdown. Ontario has entered a lockdown now, and we've been reporting over 2,000 cases over the last 12 days. Doctor, how hopeful are you that this lockdown will have its impact in bringing down the numbers and then again, of course, containing the spread of this new strain?
I think a lockdown is only as useful as the adherence that people take to it, and that means that you don't bend the rules, you don't try and cheat. I'm still quite concerned that a lot of people are frustrated with this, that they want this to go away, and it won't. I think that we're going to need a good 4 to 6 weeks to start seeing the impact of that happening. Hopefully, if we get a fair number of Canadians vaccinated during that period of time, and we get a better adherence to public health messaging, we will start to see some impact. We'll start flattening the curve and hopefully see our way towards more hope going through the rest of this pandemic.
We always appreciate those insights, and thank you for taking up the time once again. CTV News infectious disease specialist, Dr. Abdish Rakawi, appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Let's now bring in Mayor of Brampton in Ontario, Mayor Patrick Brown. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So Brampton has been hit one of the hardest where the pandemic is concerned in Toronto and Peel that have already been in a lockdown for weeks and now will face another additional 28 days. Are you hopeful, Mayor, that this will help in bringing the numbers down?
Well, there's a little bit of a different context in Brampton. In some communities, when you have a lockdown, the entire city is almost locked down. In Brampton, our largest sectors are areas like transportation, logistics, and food processing, which are considered essential because Canada's supply chain depends on them for food or for medical supplies and the various fulfillment centers that allow packaging to go throughout the country. And because of that, for many in Brampton, it's life as normal. They're continuing to go to work. Actually, a lot of these companies are even hiring new people because they're so busy, and it's a challenge because we have seen COVID-19 spread in significant numbers in these factories, in these warehouses.
So what are you doing since you're aware of the fact that these factories and warehouses are places where the virus is spreading? Have you been able to double check with them? Are there new provisions in place to make sure that even though they operate now under the lockdown, that virus doesn't spread quickly?
Well, there's a few things that we ask for help from the federal and provincial governments. First, we ask for an isolation center. We got good news just a few days ago. The provincial government is going to set up 3 isolation centers in Brampton for people that don't have a place to safely isolate. If you live in crowded living conditions, it's difficult to find a place to isolate away from others. We've also been pushing for more spot checks of businesses from the Ministry of Labour to make sure that public health protocols are followed. And probably most significantly, we've been lobbying both the provincial and federal governments for paid sick days. We have a lot of temporary workers, people that are in precarious employment, and they can't afford to miss a paycheck. For many, if they don't go into work, they can't put food on the table. And we need to make sure that these pandemic heroes, because that's what they are, these essential workers are pandemic heroes, we need to make sure that we have their backs with the type of supports we've seen in countries that have, frankly, been more successful at combating COVID-19.
But this closure, this lockdown is also affecting the smaller businesses the most right now. So while this is a public health emergency, you will agree it's snowballed into a major economic emergency as well. How are you addressing your constituents on that front?
Well, it is one of the challenges with this lockdown in the sense that, in Brampton, I've seen significant transmission in the industrial settings and household spread. But when I look at the small retailers, we haven't had significant transmission. We haven't had a single case in a restaurant. As an example, yet restaurants are closed. And so I know public health right now and the provincial health table is looking at shutting down any areas where there's interactions. But it's tough to tell a small business why they're being closed when a Costco or a Walmart which is much busier, that is open. And so, we don't have significant means municipally to help them through this period. And we've got shop local campaigns with deferred property taxes. But really, this isn't just a health pandemic. It's an economic tidal wave for many of these small businesses. And it's one of the things that keeps me up at night, because I really believe there's going to be businesses that go under.
That's correct, and the recovery is going to be so hard, as we've been speaking to so many of such professionals and businessmen. But I want to talk to you about the healthcare system and how stretched it is in Brampton. What are hospitals telling you about the situation there?
Well, the house is full, we're at full capacity, but once again, to add some context into this, Brampton has been at code gridlock for 5 years. The provincial average for hospital beds in Ontario is 2.19 for every 1,000 residents. In Brampton is only 0.96. We've been long promised a new hospital. It hasn't materialized yet, although, we're hopeful it's going to come soon. But we have half the beds that other communities have on a per capita level. And so it's with no surprise, if we were at full capacity before the pandemic, that it's only gotten worse, and to the point that right now our hospital system, the Osler Health System, has to send patients to other hospitals. I know we're sending patients to Halton Healthcare, UHN in Toronto, and RVH in Barrie. So we've had to depend on other hospitals to handle the overflow of patients, which is frankly unacceptable in a province as prosperous as Ontario, and it speaks to why we desperately need that new hospital.
Mayor Brown, thank you so much for joining us and bringing us those updates of what's happening and the realities on the ground. That's Mayor of Brampton, Patrick Brown. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
And in sports, COVID-19 has wreaked havoc on Germany's World Junior Hockey team. Positive tests on players delayed travel, cancelled practices, and then came Team Canada.
16-2, one of his most lopsided openers in German history.
The defending champs dominated without captain Kirby Dach out due to injury. Canada placed the lot there on Sunday. You're watching CTV News Channel.
Join Audible free for 30 days and get your first title on us. Then get one title every month, choosing from hundreds of thousands, including audiobooks, Audible originals, podcasts, and more. Everything is better when you listen. Text Audible to 58,000 and join today.
100 years of Mazda means 100 years of you driving us forward. The Mazda CX-5, built by us, inspired by you.
Oil for Santa. Oil for Santa.
You don't know how this works, do you?
It's my first day. You coming?
The Risk Boxing Day blowout. All starts Boxing Day at 6 a.m. These are quick bets, your choice, only $2.49 each. 18 cubic foot stainless steel fridge, just $5.49. Shop online or in store for even more incredible deals. The Brick, saving you more.
For non-drowsy relief from nausea, trust Gravol Ginger from the #1 doctor-recommended brand. It's formulated with therapeutic levels of organic ginger. Plus, it's clinically proven to help prevent nausea without causing drowsiness. Try Gravol Ginger.
My mom gave me hiking boots for Christmas.
Interact presents gifts that meant a million.
I lived away from home for a lot of years, but my sister and my mom were really into portaging at the time and hiking. It was their idea to do the trip, and I just wanted to be a part of it and spend time with them. It is kind of crazy that one item has now kind of shaped the way that I live my life.
You don't have to spend $1 million to make someone feel like $1 million. Interact.
Thanks Thanks for staying with us. I'm Akshay Tandon. To the latest now on the investigation of an explosion that rocked downtown Nashville early Christmas morning. Federal agents raided a suburban home to determine whether the person who lives there was responsible for the blast. Here's ABC's Andrew Timbert.
Authorities reviewing surveillance video of a powerful explosion in downtown Nashville on Christmas morning.
Stay back till we figure out what's going on.
The FBI is now in charge of the investigation and is still working to identify the human remains found at the scene. Sources tell ABC News authorities are searching properties associated with Anthony Quinn Warner and are working to determine if he was responsible for the explosion.
Our investigative team is turning over every stone to make sure we know as many details as possible to answer the question of who was responsible for this, and also to understand why did they do this.
Investigators say just after 1 a.m., this RV was seen parked outside the AT&T building. Hours later, police responded to a call of shots fired. When they approached the RV, they could hear a recording coming from the vehicle, warning people nearby to evacuate. At 6:30 a.m., the RV exploded into a fireball, debris and smoke shooting hundreds of feet into the air. Buck McCoy was in his bed when his apartment building shook.
All the windows came in from the living room into the bedroom. The front door became unhinged.
This surveillance video from inside a nearby home shows the force of the blast. The debris field stretching for several blocks, windows shattered, buildings damaged. The police keep asking business owners and residents to be patient.
There's about 40 buildings that's been impacted, and so those buildings will have to be cleared through our codes.
Authorities looking to reassure residents.
The team that's behind me and the folks that they represent are doing everything we can to find out what happened here, to get the answers that you deserve, and to make sure that we're all safe.
First responders and 6 police officers being hailed as heroes after rushing in to evacuate the area. Remarkably, only 3 people suffered minor injuries. Andrew Dimber, ABC News, Washington, D.C.
And despite warnings against travel, many Americans took to the skies for the holidays. The U.S. Transportation Agency says it screened more than 616,000 people at airports on Christmas Day. It comes as the virus continues to ravage California, where a new death is being reported every 10 minutes in Los Angeles County, and hospitals are running out of ICU beds. But that time for a break. But coming up, COVID-19's impact on the economy. A look back at the roller coaster year for employees and businesses across Canada. We'll be right back.
Penny, the Big Bang Theory Holiday Marathon is on now.
Beautiful. But support the leg. When I started Cobra Kai, the lack of control over my business made me a little intense. But now I practice a different philosophy. QuickBooks helps me get paid, stay organized, and run payroll. And now I'm back on top with Koala Kai. Hey! More mercy.
Save over 30 hours a month with Intuit QuickBooks, the easy way to a happier business.
Canada Deposit Insurance Corporation is a federal agency that protects your money when you deposit it with any of our member institutions. Look for our logo. However you bank. CDIC. See how we protect your money.
At 7-Eleven, we're open 24/7, so you always have a safe place to shop in the neighborhood.
With enhanced safety measures and cleaning practices to protect you and our team members, we're expanding our assortment of groceries, health and beauty needs, hot takeout meals, snacks, and meals to cook at home. Plus, we have munchies, slippery drinks, and more. Shop in store, order for pickup, or get fast, safe, contactless delivery around the clock. One thing remains constant. 7-Eleven, here for you in the neighborhood.
Cranky-pated. A bad mood from being constipated. Restorelax works with the water in your body to get back your natural rhythm without gas, bloating, or cramping. So now you can relax with Restorelax.
Buzz. Time now for Business Buzz. This week we look at the top business stories of 2020 according to our guest, independent business journalist Brian Borzykowski. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So Brian, COVID-19 has had a devastating impact on Canada and the world economy, prompting a massive spending response from Ottawa. Let's talk about the losses and the ballooning deficit this year.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about big business stories. It's COVID. Everything relates back to this. And who would have thought that at the end of 2020 we would have a deficit of $381 billion. That is up from $30 billion back in January. And we were talking about how big that was. So that is a big difference. We saw massive job losses in March, about 2 million jobs lost. Some of that has been gained back, but that's been a huge story. The spending programs, as you mentioned, are massive. The CERB, which was the big one of the year, cost about $77 billion. There's wage subsidies. I mean, the government's had to put out all stops to keep this economy going. And even so, we're going to end the year off negative. We saw a massive decrease in annualized GDP in the second quarter, close to 35%. That thankfully rebounded to 40% in the next quarter, but still going to be down on the year. Who would have thought that we'd be in recessions, job losses like this back in January? But that is the big story, and that's happening all around the world.
What a year this has been, Brian. And COVID-19, of course, has pushed all of us to change our outlook towards several things in life. For example, even how we work now. It's redefined work from home.
Yeah, and I think this is, too, another massive story that gets, people talked about it a lot, but gets a little bit lost in the implications of kind of everything else that's gone on. But in March, 5 more million Canadians worked from home at the end of March than they did, just at the beginning of March. That is incredible to see how much remote work changed, that this is going to be something that people are going to use going forward. ADP put out a survey recently that said about 40% of Canadians want to work from home 3 days a week. So that's something to watch going forward. And it's just to think about the massive change in the way we work. It's just incredible. And I think that will be a lasting business story to come in years ahead.
And it's a good thing. We've been working from home, Brian. That means there's more money to spend, which has also changed our shopping habits. I mean, of course, we've been shopping online most of the 2020. So talk to us about consumer habits this year.
Yeah, another big change that I think could be permanent is just online shopping. A lot of people weren't used to online shopping. Now they are. I mean, personally, we buy everything online now because we're not going out. And that, I think, is going to change. We've seen Amazon's North American sales increased by 40% in the last quarter. Amazon is already a behemoth. They increased that by that much. That's incredible. But the downside of that is that retail, brick and mortar stores that we know, Le Chateau, Reitmans, David's Tea, Aldo, a lot of these stores are either shutting down permanently or closing stores. The face of retail will never look the same, I don't think, and that is another huge story going forward.
And the other thing, Brian, the markets this year, so much volatility all through the year. It was a real roller coaster ride, but good things end on a high note.
Yes, this is, I think a lot of people are surprised by this. Back in March, the market tanked by 35%. Everyone thought their portfolios were going to be devastated. It was going to be horrible. And, it was in March. But it's actually, the stock markets have gained about 60% since then. And they're finishing the year up. U.S. market, S&P 500, about 13% as of now. Still a few more days to go. The Canadian market's up about 3%. Nobody would have predicted that we would be in the black at the end of this year, and that is at least something that we can be happy about for our portfolios. As long as you stayed the course and didn't sell out, it has stayed intact.
And before I wrap up, I must say, Brian, looking pretty smashing in the bow tie today.
Hey, this is my only New Year's event, so yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. I will see you, of course, next year, and a very happy New Year to you and your family.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too, and the whole control room at CTV as well.
Thanks very much. That's, of course, independent business journalist Brian Borzykowski joining us on Business Buzz.
Thanks.
And if you listen to Mariah Carey's holiday classic, All I Want for Christmas Is You, yesterday, you want to know. The song broke Spotify's single-day record for most streams. It was played over 17 million times. Thank you for watching CTV News Channel. Have a safe rest of your weekend.
tools, dusting can be a quick and simple job. To easily and effectively tackle dust in your home, try Swiffer Heavy-Duty Duster and Sweeper. Swiffer Duster uses thousands of specially coated fibers to easily trap, lock, and remove 3 times more dust than traditional dusters, while Sweeper Dry's ultra-thick pad traps dust-dirty hair in one easy swipe and reaches deep into flooring grooves that other tools can miss. To quickly and easily remove dust, dirt, and hair, try Swiffer. Brand power helping you buy better.
Quitting, it's not easy. So don't do it alone. With Nicorette and your willpower, you're twice as likely to quit smoking. Today's the day. Join the quitters. Nicorette, let's do something amazing.
Keeping your smile healthy between dental visits is important. The Waterpik Water Flosser removes plaque from treated areas. Brushing alone only gets the surface, but the Waterpik Water Flosser cleans the areas brushing may miss. Go to waterpik.ca